We're breaking down the biggest storylines ahead of the Georgia-Florida game this coming Saturday. Get excited because there's lots of stats and lots to run through that should result in Georgia absolutely taking it to the hapless and pathetic and bad Florida Gators. Next, Locked on Bulldogs.
You are Locked on Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Locked on Bulldogs, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every single day. I am Clint. This is Locked on Bulldogs. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, FanDuel.com. More on them in a moment. We appreciate you making your first listen of the day be Locked on Bulldogs, and appreciate you being here every single day. You are the everydayers. You're here with us every single day over on YouTube and the audio side. We appreciate you guys so very much being here. Daniel's not with me today. He is traveling. I am here. He was here yesterday with us talking about all the news. We might be getting back Tate Ratledge on the offensive line, which that would be a giant boom for us in both pass pro, which has been excellent so far, only added when you get an all-pro, all-American, all-pro type guard interior lineman back into the fold, as well as the defensive side of the ball, who is playing out and what are the biggest storylines ahead. Today, I'm tackling the three things looking ahead for segments one. We're going to talk about Florida's efficiency as a team on offense and defense. They showed out they could play offense. Wait, just hold on a second. DJ Lagway in, Napier coaching for his job. All of a sudden, their offense is pretty good. We're going to check on that and see what the actual stats tell us, not just what perceived emotion tells us. Second segment, we're talking about the biggest storyline, ETN coming back and how Florida Gators are just all up in their feels about that. And then lastly, what Kirby Smart has been saying about the Florida Gators and what he's been saying about his own team. And I think we have crested a mountain in this season with the win against Texas and now the bye week. I think it is going to be a snowball effect. I'm going to talk about that in the third segment. But first, let's talk about the efficiency of these Florida Gators and what that means and what that looks like, because from the eye test, you look at it and you look back and you say, oh, Florida, put some points on some teams. They if you look at common opponents, that's always my favorite, right? The common opponent theory. It's crazy to me. So they'll say, well, hey, look, of the teams that we played, I'm being Florida Gators right now, so I'm not going to even do the accent because it's just embarrassing. I'm not even going to dummy myself down because it's embarrassing. But they'll say something along the lines of, hey, our common opponents, we've put points up. We've crushed them. We've made them look mediocre. And you guys struggled against the likes of Kentucky. How dare you struggle against Kentucky? How dare you? No self-respecting team would ever do that. So a Florida fan is all up in their feels, because they're thinking to themselves, we have a shot against you, because if you just look at our common opponents, we're going to be good to go. Hold on a second here, Florida fan. I'm here to tell you that the transitive property is not always a thing that you should look at. It's not something that is that big of a deal. Kentucky 48-20. Texas A&M, they lost by 13, and A&M's now looking like a great team. So you might think to yourself, okay, lost by double there. Put 45 on Mississippi State and only allowed them 28 points. Okay, that might be something. Yeah, we got shellacked by Miami and Cam and all that. But Florida wants to come out here, puff their chest, and say, we're going to give you more of a fight than you think, because the point spread right now, hovering somewhere around 20, you can get it started at 18.5 up to 20.5, somewhere in that ballpark, depending on where you go. We're going to talk about that here in a second, what FanDuel has us at. But it's crazy to me that Florida fans are out here puffing their chests. And here's why it's crazy to me. Because if you look at what metrics say, not just, hey, here's the score, here's the game, because each and every game, we understand, and Locked on Bulldogs, we understand that every single game is a different game. You cannot and should not take game one and do a correlation to game one of Georgia. So Mississippi State, let's go common opponent. It's all the same. You don't have the same injuries. You don't have the same atmosphere. You don't have the same context of where it is in the schedule. You don't know. You don't know how practice was that week. Football is such a finicky game that it is not a zero-sum game. It is not just bland. It is not just in a laboratory. Although I'm going to go analytical on you. I'm going to tell you some stats that should showcase you that games are weird in their ebb and flow. And it's like a living, breathing organism. But you shouldn't do the transitive property because it doesn't make any sense, because each and every game is a different season. If you even ask every coach, every player, how they perform and how they look forward to the season is quarter by quarter of a season, right? This is why every single time somebody gets on Kirby of hey, if he wanted to, he can let Bobo go and we could put 50 points up. Who cares? We should be putting 50 points up every single game. Well, here's the point. The point is, we call the death march. We've coined the term Kirby death march. And it's him saying, I want to evaporate, just eviscerate the clock. I have a lead. I know what's going on. I'm playing field position. I'm playing for drive 2 in the fourth quarter, not for drive 1 right now. I'm not going to absolutely empty my bag right here in the second quarter. That's what stupid teams do. That's what Josh Heupel's system does at Tennessee. It's gimmicky. It's stupid. He empties his bag and then he has nothing left. Kirby says, I'm going to be a 12-round boxer in this. I'm going to go into the championship rounds. I'm going to go 3rd and 4th round in the UFC. I'm going to keep this thing going. And in order to do that, I need to set you up. I need to take my shots. And I hope that I get expected yards, 6, 7, 8 yards per carry on inside runs, outside runs, stretching to the outside on screen passes. Yes, you're all mad because it gets 4 or 5 yards. That's a run play on first down. That's great. I'm going to go to the efficiency rankings of Georgia and Florida to try to showcase just what this means and how this looks. Georgia has an offense. This is with opponents adjusted. So again, every single team, every single place is not the same. And Florida will say, we're the same. We play the same opponents. Well, hold on. Let's talk about efficiency. When you need 5 yards to stay ahead of the chains, what do you get? That's what efficiency means. If you're expecting 5 yards, do you get the 5 yards? Georgia is 8th in the nation in expected efficiency on offense with the schedule in context. So not all games are the same. Ohio State, hello, welcome. They're not all the same. Georgia is 8th on offensive schedule adjusted efficiency. That's very good. Top 10 offenses on when we need 5 yards, we get 5 yards. When we need 6 yards, we get 6 yards. When we second down and we need to get a first and we're third down and we're less than 3, do we get that first down? Do we expect to get it? Do we get it? Yes. They are in the top 10. Florida, on the other hand, 27th. Now, if you take out the adjustment for efficiency, Florida has the 20th offense. But all of a sudden you add that efficiency, they're 27th. If you do that for Georgia, Georgia drops down 5 ranks or something like that, meaning that our offense hasn't been up to par with the rest of what we expected. They're good. They're good at going down the field and getting junk yards. But then when you look, they kind of play down to some opponents. Texas, they played up, because we're going to find out Texas actually has the number 1 efficient defense in the entire nation. Florida is below Georgia by 20 marks or so. Now, that's really, really important for me, because if I look at Florida's offense and what they try to do, DJ Lagway cannot throw the ball. He is like another Gator who tapped himself out of the game. Y'all, the Colts said, let me draft this let me draft this man and give him the franchise. And then he said, Coach, I'm too tired. Too tired as quarterback. I've been running around a lot. I need to come out of the game. Just quick breather. Oh my. DJ Lagway is very similar. He doesn't want to play the big boy of football. He wants to kind of do his thing, and he might want to tap out after this game against Jalen Walker and a whole bunch of Bulldogs coming after him. We're going to talk about it here in a second. But if you look at what they do on offense, Florida Gators have a good rushing attack. They showed that out. 5 touchdowns rushing last week. They have an attack. They have an identity. Graham Mertz goes down with the injury. They can't throw the ball. They don't have any wide receivers, but they do have a kind of a stingy-esque offensive line, kind of a ragtag group that wants to run the football. And DJ Lagway does have a live arm down the field, and he doesn't make a decision processing. His interception rate is not that great. His completion percentage is not great, but he is an athlete. Stop me if you heard this before. This is why Florida thinks they have a shot, because they look at Milroe and they say, we can be him. This just in, Milroe's 1 of 1. You, DJ Lagway, are not that. Just stop. Full stop. You're not it whatsoever. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about the defensive side of the football for Florida, how they think they can stop Georgia's offensive attack that I just listed as 3rd in the nation without the adjustment, 8th in the nation with adjusted. Florida is well behind them. They think they have a shot. I'm going to tell you why they don't have a shot stopping Carson Beck, Travis Etienne, and yes, a talented, although kind of ascending at the moment, wide receiver group. I'm going to talk about that next, but first, these. And these are, in fact, Roy. Roy is fantastic. Right now, you get to get in the game with NIL. So far this season, we've raised $20,000 support the players of Roy. Microdeposits lead to massive change. With the Roy app, you can direct your support to the athletes that you love, ensuring that all funds go to specific players you choose. Billy Napier, I want to give to your Roy fund because that means you come back next year, and I want you back coaching Florida every single time. The best part is risk-free. If the player doesn't come back, they transfer. They don't get the funds. The funds get redistributed back to you, for the campaign does not end successfully. This week, we are supporting. I really wish we could support Billy Napier. I'm not even joking with this. I really wish I could, but I digress. We cannot. CJ Allen, we can support you. CJ Allen is our choice. We love him. He's going to have huge impact. Linebacking core this week is going to make a big impact. Plus, don't miss out on Roy's exciting giveaway. Win 2 tickets to a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, and enter referral code locked on, and you're entered. Already on Roy, any contribution to the athletes campaign also gets you entered automatically. Download Roy now. Get an NIL game with no subscriptions, no fees. Be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Roy_return on you for more information. Roy, support the players, change the game. All right, I give you the offensive side. Florida thinks that they have a rushing attack. Georgia, if you look at what we've done on defensive side of the football, Georgia has at the times been susceptible to the run, and look no further than Kentucky. We saw Kentucky continue to extend drives and keep that going. That wasn't so fun to watch for us. Passing game, we saw Quinn Ewers get benched, and again, had Arch Manning come in and sustain a drive for a touchdown. Quinn Ewers would have been in the transfer portal right now. Don't think it was to give him a break and give him a reset. That was not the case, Sark. I know that's what you're playing into it, but it's not the case whatsoever. Quinn Ewers found out that Georgia's defense pass-wise is pretty daggum good. Running the ball, there's been at times where we haven't had a soul in the middle of the defense. We think we awoke in it. We think it was like a dormant volcano waiting to erupt, and the defensive line now has chaos in its blood once again. From that Texas game, we stopped the run, we stopped the pass, we stopped their entire offense. That is true. Do we have a defense that can stop the running attack? When we look at guys like Ingram Dawkins that is ascending, we get Jordan Hall back soon, hopefully this game. And if y'all don't know what his presence is going to mean to Christian Miller and the rest of those dogs on the inside, it's going to provide an incredible boost. McLeod, all the dogs in the middle, especially at linebacker. When we saw the stems last week, you saw that beautiful picture of that 4-man front that went to the 6-man with a blitz. Oh my gosh, to end the game, that was just poetry in motion. You saw that stem. When you talk about that, we talk about inside linebackers and you talk about the defensive line. We believe that is going to be stout enough against a team that thinks they can run. But again, efficiency-wise, they're not as good as other teams we face. Texas is 14th on this list. We shut them down. Alabama 10th. Second half of that game, once we figured out that Milroe was trying to get to the edge on us, shut that down in entirety as well. Ole Miss up here, by the way, just a quick little look ahead. 13th. We can look ahead because we're not players. They can't look ahead because they're players and coaches. We can. Ole Miss is 13 on this list. Clemson 5th. Clemson 5th on this list. Now, if you take out the Georgia game from their schedule, I bet they're number 1. I bet if you gave them the average of every other game they played besides Georgia, I bet they're first in adjusted offense. We shut down a top 5 offense. It was the beginning of the year, I understand, but that shouldn't mean anything because they still have the same players as the ACC, all that good stuff. Okay, now let's go over to the defensive side of the ball. When you look at efficiency for defensive metrics, do you stop teams from marching down the field? Do you stop teams when you need it most? When there's an expected, are you putting offenses behind the sticks? Are you making them come from behind in this? And Georgia is a top 5 defense. 4th, if you don't take the adjusted schedule. So 4th and 5th, respectively, no matter what, if you want to kind of balance it across college football or just say what it is, Georgia's defense has been this. This is the word I would use for them. They have been disruptive when they need to be. That is true. Look at the Kentucky game again. Ran all of us with very, 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 very smallish running backs that aren't Derrick Henry's all over the place. But if you look at what Kentucky's tried to do, Kentucky has disintegrated on themselves. Brock Vandalay Industries doesn't know how to play quarterback at all. There was a threat of that. They've forgotten how to do any wide receiver, anything. That game, they got the screen game going. I think they did a fine job. Again, Stoops wants to have his Super Bowl every year. Georgia, same way with Kalen DeBoer and Alabama. They want the Super Bowl to be Georgia every single year. So I think if you look at that, Georgia has been disruptive. Look no further than the Texas game, the volcano that has erupted and woken the sleeping giant that is a very talented, a very experienced, and a very stout defense. And it shows out. It proves out. If you look at yards and you look at red zone and all of that, Georgia is there with the best of them. Texas, like I said before, number one. Now, it's really weird because just statistically wise, 81st in the nation without any efficiency index, which is very, very bizarre. If you look at other teams on this, there's another team that has struck my attention as having a incredible old school feel to them, and that's Tennessee. Tennessee's third on this list. Penn State, Oregon, South Carolina. South Carolina, if you look at what they do, they've won games and been in games, not because their offense, and Zellers knows what the heck he's doing because at times he looks lost. It's because their defense, and oh my gosh, Johnny Walker Jr. just blowing people up coming off the edge. They're in this as well. Georgia has a top 8 and top 5 efficient offense and defense. Now, our problem has been before the red zone offense, scoring when we need to score. That is true. And by the way, really quick, this is an Atlanta Braves A. If you're on YouTube, if you're on audio side, go over to the YouTube side. This is Atlanta Braves A. I know it's baseball. I know the World Series on the Braves, but nobody yell at me. Y'all don't see the mullet on the A. Okay, so it's not Bama, it's Braves. If you look at Florida and what they're doing, you got to go down the list for defensive adjusted efficiency, not just points in a game, but are you expecting? Is this outside of them? Did we get beat that bad, as somebody on Twitter says? Was the game that out of hand? And Florida's defense, they might want to say they've been in close contests. They haven't been in that many close contests. And the close contests they've been in, they're 39th. 39th in efficiency, meaning that when they stop people, it's kind of luck. It's kind of like, I guess I don't know how that happened either. They screwed up. We got lucky. Their defense is not formidable, is what I'm trying to say. They're 39th, and the likes of Texas Tech, Fresno, Colorado, Kentucky is ahead of them on this. USC, Missouri, Washington, Clemson on this list. We've seen Clemson. Clemson has a good stout defense as well. I think what this tells me, and what we anticipate for the game, and why the point spread is this big, is because if you look at where Georgia and Florida might think to themselves, okay, we can run on them. You might be able to for a few times, but there's no way that the defense has been that good for Florida, and Georgia's offense has been, I'll say it, great when they need to be. Yeah, I said great, even though I got really mad at Bobo for doing empty sets against Texas, even though I got mad at Carson Beck because he is very, very, very loose with that football. I don't know where he got that from, even though Kirby's coming into his fence and is backing his boy, which he should do because he's Kirby Smart, and that's your quarterback. That's what he ought to do. He's doing all the things. If you look at the point spread and what Vegas is saying this, and you should be saying this. And if it doesn't play out this way, come back for the locks on Thursday, and we'll give you our prediction for the game. But DJ Lagway is not a good quarterback, period. He's inexperienced. Yes, he might be uber talented, maybe. Arm talent, I don't know. Reading ability, nope. Offensive coordinator, nope. Coaching, nope. Okay, so you have an unproven, unskilled, possibly high ceiling guy in an offense that doesn't suit him, that has no identity. And when they run the ball, they have success. But if you take that run away, which Kirby Smart knows film, and what he's probably going to do is say, I'll make you throw it, DJ. I want to make you. I made Quinn Ewers try to beat me one-on-one on the edges, and it didn't work. What makes you think, Florida, that you're better than Texas? The best offensive line we faced, the best quarterback we faced. I said best quarterback, not best running quarterback. That's Milroe. Best quarterback we faced with the best offensive mind we faced, and we shut them down in their place. What makes you think in a neutral site game that you, DJ Lagway, are on the same level of Quinn Ewers? And if you think Billy Napier and your staff of 18 assistants who are assistant to the assistant regional director, manager, think that you're better than Steve Sarkisian, you're crazy. What Kirby Smart's going to do is going to say, I'm going to time up on the outside. I had a whole bye week. We're rested up. We're coached up. All those guys, but I'm going to time up one-on-one man coverage on the backside. I'm going to have safety who my corners better be able to play on an island because I got 2 safeties out for the half. They better be able to. I got experience in the secondary as well. Lock them up and say, you try to beat me passing the ball, DJ. I'm going to make you. I'm going to take away the run. And what Florida's proven is they don't have much beyond that. So even if you say, we got a stout running attack, okay, we're going to load the box up and make DJ do it. Oh, that's great. We're excited for that. Are you, Florida fan? I would venture to say you're not. Or if you are, you shouldn't be. Not predicting that's not going to happen. Not predicting you're not going to get a few shots on us. But what I'm saying is don't think that that's what you want to see happen. Florida fan, you're delusional. Hey, come back after this. We're going to let you know more about what to look for in this matchup and what ETN and Kirby Smart is saying about guys coming back in the third segment. But first, these. And these are, in fact, FanDuel. FanDuel is fantastic. FanDuel is great. It's the official sports book of Locked On Bulldogs, Locked On Podcast ever. It's the official place that Daniel and I go to make all of our locks. When we do the Thursday episode every single week of locks here on Locked On Bulldogs, we give you these, and it is from FanDuel. FanDuel is fantastic. Official sports book of Locked On Bulldogs, the only place we trust to go get it. And right now, you can get the action. You can do over-unders. You do any $5 bet. A $5 bet gets you $200 in bonus bets straight to your account. That's right. You place $5, you get bonus bet of $200 to your account. And right now you get over there. 16.5 is the spread. It's been bet down. Money has come in, and Georgia, Florida has been down to 16.5, started at 18.5, and went up to 20.5, and now down to 16.5 over on FanDuel. I would go ahead and get on that action. FanDuel.com, make every moment more. We're back talking about the storylines for this Georgia-Florida game that is coming up. Here's the big storylines. We want to talk about the efficiency of offense, defense, and matchup there. We talk about Trevor ETN. And ETN is, let me say this. There's been much conversation and much talk from Florida fan about, well, he traded on us. Can you blame him? Just honestly, like legitimately, look, you all were calling for Billy Napier's head. You all were saying that he can't handle NIL. You were all saying he can't coach the offensive development. You all were saying maybe DJ Lagway is the guy when you play him more than Graham. Okay, fine. Billy Napier is still there. Mertz is gone, unfortunately, because of injury. You never want to see that happen. DJ's in. He's having a whole list of giant learning curve. What makes you think that a guy who is ascending, that's the best back in the SEC, second best back in the SEC, with running backs in the SEC, throw out statistics? My gosh, what are you doing? What are you doing? Stop with the lunacy. The best back plays at Auburn. The second best back plays for Georgia. You can talk about Justin Haynes and whatever. Justice Haynes, it doesn't matter to me. I don't care. I know football, and I know when guys get their opportunity, and I know a rotation, and I know Auburn has number 1, and we have number 2, and Florida does not have 3, 4, 5, 6, or maybe 7, maybe down the road there. But if you look at ETN, can you blame him, first of all, because y'all were ready to bail on Napier and Graham Mertz, and you were calling for DJ Lagway, who was behind him, and Napier's calling the shots, and an offense that now you're like, well, ETN could have run in this offense. No, he's there now because Graham Mertz is hurt. But before, you all thought that Graham Mertz was going to be a Heisman candidate. You all sincerely believed and took bets that Graham Mertz was going to be in New York for the Heisman conversation. Now, you can make fun of me because I thought the same thing of Carson Beck, which that will not happen. I didn't think he was going to win. I thought he was going to be in New York. Not anymore. But don't get on ETN. This is just ludicrous. ETN went to a place that develops. If you look at what Georgia's doing, and this is the narrative that I think is so hilarious to me. This is why, Florida fan, you're delusional. If you look at what's happening in the NFL today, you look at the Buffalo Bills, James Cook. Hello. How about you just run off every other skill position there, because you got a pretty dang good quarterback, and then you got one of the best running backs in the AFC who is carrying a team on his back at times against pretty good opponents. You got the Raiders having not only the best tight end, but one of the best receivers and one of the best rookie seasons ever for any rookie. You have Ladd McConkey doing Ladd McConkey things, saying Georgia prepared me for this. You have the NFL and teams that are being elevated. The Raiders should not be any good on offense. They have 3 quarterbacks. They have no identity. They have no defense. They shouldn't be good. Brock Bowers is keeping them in the game. And all of a sudden, if you want to go ahead and figure that out, off bench quarterback, whoever's next up for quarterback for Raiders, just throw it Brock's way. He will catch it and run. Figure it out really quick. Ladd McConkey is, again, shipping off other guys because they targeted him in the draft and said, we want him to be everything for us receiving. James Cook, same thing. He is now a bell cow in the NFL. And it's because of that ETN saw what Kirby Smart has done over the last couple of draft classes and said, yes, I'm here. Do you blame the kid? Because Billy Napier has not done that. And you want to talk about, well, Anthony Richardson. Well, first of all, mismanaged that guy all to death while he was at Florida, if he's that good. Secondly, he's not that good. So even if you want to say he is that good, Billy Napier is a joke. Secondly, he's not that good, because look at his team and look at his stats and look at his completion percentage and look at him tapping out on the game. What are you doing? Of course, ETN left. Of course, other guys left. And it does produce a vacuum where other guys have to step up because they have allegiance to Florida. They have the allegiance to the blue and the orange. It's very weird. It's very bizarre. I get everything. I understand that you have some weird, sick, and twisted love affair with that dump of a place. And there's guys there that are skilled. And there's guys there that want to follow in footsteps, and go for it. Have fun. Do your thing. But don't blame a guy, Florida fan, for having his cake and eating it too at Georgia. That's what he is doing. And he's preparing himself for a career elevated because he was on the biggest stage playing against the biggest games, showing out against Texas in Austin, one of the top 3 coached games in Kirby Smart's top 3 games in Georgia's Kirby Smart's tenure. He was the main offensive focal weapon. Do you see why? Now you look at that game and everything else is talked about. The penalty and Georgia's defense. Georgia's defense stole the show. Jalen Walker stole the show. You get no defense out of that. That was incredible. I loved it. One of the biggest single-handed performances that I have seen from a Georgia outside linebacker in a long time. Certainly this year, which was much needed and much excited. Of course, ETN went elsewhere. Don't be shocked when it happens more. And you can talk about hated rivalry. It ain't a rivalry anymore. Florida fan, I wish it was. Georgia fan, I wish it was. I wish Billy Napier. No, I don't, because I hate Florida that much. I want Billy Napier to coach there forever. I want him to continue to be inept. I want Sunbelt Billy to do what he does. I want all of that action all the time because I want Georgia to stomp the Gators every single time. I want it to be a bloodbath, and I want it to be merciless. And so it's not a competition. It's not even close anymore. Dan Mullen, who you all ran out of town, turns out he was a pretty daggum good coach, was the only shining light that you have had against Kirby Smart. And if you think this year's Florida team, the only thing that you could ever say is Florida gets up for this because it's the Super Bowl that they want and they can have their entire season, and Billy Napier's going to save his job with this against Georgia. That's it. That's the only analysis you could do, is raw emotionalism. Full stop. Full stop. Not skill, not talent, not coaching, not development, not recruiting classes, nothing other than you just saying a hope and a prayer that, yes, we get up for this game and we get excited and we get thrilled. That's what you got, Florida fan. And you show it to me every time you talk about ETN. Why would good players go to better teams? Doesn't he have any loyalty? No, you have no loyalty. You ran Dan out of town. You wanted Graham Mertz benched. You wanted Billy Napier gone. Yeah, y'all do still. Georgia, don't be Florida fan. Don't ever emulate anything that they do whatsoever. Embrace the fandom of Kirby Smart, Manny ETN, and players coming over, because it's going to be happening a lot more because players want to play for dudes, and Kirby is that dude. He is the man, full stop, all the way through. Daniel will be back tomorrow when we talk more about this Georgia-Florida game, and we talk about basketball coming up. We will be talking about basketball. It is going to be glorious. We're going to have a full season preview. Looking up for that. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you again for making us your first listen every single day, and the everydayers that are here with us. Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On podcast, programming your team every single day. We'll see you guys then.